All right. Stand up. When the tyrants taunt you and the sirens teach you, better stand up. Stand up. Let the brave meet the challenge. Let the weak flee. Boy, you better stand up. Stand up. When you're tired of begging, saying pretty please, that's the time you gotta finally get up on your knees. When you can't see the forest for the burning trees, you got to stand up. And you've been sitting so long, you got the creaky knees, you got to stand up. Stand up. I think you're driving wheels been leaking grease. Oh, you better stand up. Stand up. Oh, yeah, I think I did it. I did it right. I like it. Faded the music down. Anya Kamenetz. Kamenetz is here with me. It's great to see you. Thank you.
Good to see you too.
If people aren't subscribed to your Substack, they should run, not walk. thegoldenhour.substack.com. I'll give the full intro on the podcast, but get all of her books. She's been covering tech, climate change, social movements, mental health, education, parenting, all things kids for almost 2 decades. One of my favorite journalists and writers, and I have to talk to her about her latest. And there's always a lot to talk with you about, Anya. Thank you very much for being here.
Thank you so much for having me, Pete.
So lots to discuss. We're going to have some fun because I have to ask you about the piece you wrote around your birthday. You turned 45.
Yes, it's true. It's true.
And I'm gonna wrap up our conversation with that to end on a high note, because you wrote about, I'm trying to find it here, about like 45 things you've learned. And I love these lists when people make them. My dad made them once when he turned 70. And as soon as, but it matters like who it is. Like I might not read it if it's Kid Rock.
What has he learned? What has Kid Rock learned?
But if you wrote it, I'm like, ooh, I gotta see what Anya has come up with, and it is great. So we'll talk about that at the end. And happy birthday! That was a couple months ago, I guess.
6 months ago. Yeah.
6 months. All right. Well, the most important thing that we're not talking about is a really important piece. As soon as it came into my inbox, because I am a subscriber at Substack, I said, oh, I have to read this. I have to read this right now. Climate change is looming ever larger. It's no surprise it's harder to see you kind of open this with. And it's great reporting as always. You research, you talk to a lot of people, you reference other journalists, and of course you have your own editorial flair to it. But tell me how you approached this, or what the timing of it was. Did it have anything to do with a war?
That was definitely part of it. But honestly, this has been creeping up on me in both private and public conversations. I've been involved with a bunch of different climate organizations, and they're kind of like, gosh, we're having a problem because this just isn't top of mind for people right now, even the most concerned people. And then, the feeling that I'd had that there was less climate coverage in the news was also, and actually this affected me personally. I had 3 editors fired and resigned over the last year that I work with as a freelancer. And so I personally had an issue of not being able to place climate stories as much as I had been. And I just looked across and realized this is happening across the entire news industry, what's left of it, right?
There's several reasons as to why that might be. But first, let's be clear, the problem hasn't lessened. There is some kind of movement towards a conversation, and some former both entities, organization, companies, and even individuals like Bill Gates and others who've tried to reframe the climate crisis, the climate emergency, as it should be called. But it shouldn't be reframed, because the scientists aren't saying that. You have it laid out in the article in terms of statistically what has happened with the planet. But you say 2025 was the 3rd warmest year on record, 2024 being the warmest. 23 separate weather disasters in the United States, each costing $1 billion or more. Vast neighborhoods of our nation's 2nd largest city went up in flames, LA, creating $53 billion in damages. Dozens of children drowned in a flash flood in Texas. And the rate of warming is actually accelerating, a new scientific paper argued. And you're just looking at statistics in America over the past years, a couple. There's so much more. Where you want to pick up in terms of just framing that this is still an emergency. The bells are ringing.
The bells are absolutely ringing. And, it is hard every time we barrage people with these numbers because it does create a feeling of sort of numbness, paralysis, despair. But we have to be realistic. And I think that, the bigger picture shows that there is so much that we can do and that we have done to mitigate climate change. And since we started actually taking action, the projections have gotten, better. They've lowered from catastrophic to terrifying, right? So there's been an improvement and there's a chance to do better if we keep our eye on the ball. But instead, there's been this crazy backpedaling, right? And it enrages me. I mean, to hear someone like Bill Gates with his resources and his platform, or Eric Schmidt, the former CEO of Google, saying, well, we can't really do much about this, or it's not top of mind for us anymore. It's so self-serving and it's so just wrong.
There's so many other examples from smaller company CEOs, other organizations, including ones that are supposed to be on the right side, nonprofits, academia, and so on,
Yeah.
that see that this doesn't seem to be as important of an issue or as urgent of an issue. And one of the reasons is, and you can talk to climate activists and journalists about this, is because of the spread of autocracy, authoritarianism, fascism, and the threat that there is to democracy, and that we got to take care of that first before we work on climate. You have some interesting reporting and writing about that. How do you look at that? What do climate activists think?
Well, I mean, I think there's a very clear, first of all, like this is by design, right? So basically you could say that the fossil fuel industry funded Trump's campaign to a record-breaking amount, and there was an incredible reporting during the campaign that he basically got up in front of a bunch of fossil fuel industry executives and says, "If you give me money, I'll do whatever you want." Um, and that is true. I mean, this is the guy that appointed the head of Exxon to be Secretary of State in his first
And
term. Like,
scared him like a dog while I was on the toilet. Rex Tillerson. Yeah, that was.
oh, yeah. That was that. Exactly. Good old days. So basically the fossil fuel industry was like, this is our guy and we don't care about his lack of leadership or his frankly lack of competence. We're betting that chaos is our best bet, you know? And I'll just add, like, since this piece came out, there was a incredible quote from not an activist, but an oil industry analyst who said the company's strategy is to pray for war. They basically need a war every few years to improve their prices. Um, and that's exactly what they got.
It would seem like the cost of their product is going up because it's harder to get. And it seems like oil producing nations are doing pretty well in this situation. We can talk about Venezuela and how
Yeah.
they've been compromised and what's changed there. Obviously, Russia. And now we're looking at the entire Middle East on fire. But I guess that's not bad for oil companies at this point right now. What else? The other thing that's not bad is that there has been arguably a disinvestment into renewable energy. And the federal government is not only not investing in the future like the rest of the world is, but they're investing in the past and making it harder for projects that have already been funded. That's just the most outraging one to me. Wind and solar, especially projects that have already been funded, to be defunded. I read they tried to pay off a wind company $1 billion just so they'll stop. And so that is another dynamic which you report is happening. We're invested in the future of renewables, which are great and competitive, as you teach us, but also we're investing in the past.
I mean, it's looking more and more like cartel economics, right? Like the fossil fuel industry spent decades arguing that it's just the logic of the market, right? We need this energy because it's the cheapest energy. Well, that's not true anymore, right? China owns the future. They are financing and building and selling the world of the electrotech revolution. Ethiopia, I believe, banned gas cars just a couple of years ago. And they have built out their electric charging network. And they're just like, we import our cars and we import gas. Let's stop importing gas. And let's just have our own, we'll leapfrog. Not that many people own cars yet, but there's continents of people who are like, we don't have to live this way and we don't have to be dependent. And you can guarantee that all over the world, people are looking at this choke in the Strait of Hormuz, right? Particularly Asia. Asia gets, right, most of their oil from that shipping route and oil, natural gas. And in the short term, they're going to have to open up coal plants. I've read about like coal plants in Thailand are starting up again. In the long term, it's going to be batteries. And China is going to be so happy to sell them. So this looks like a more and more like a desperate last stand from our oil companies and our fossil fuel and natural gas companies. And I just hope that they don't take the world with them.
You have a great quote from a climate activist getting back to the point about, can we focus on climate and saving democracy? You talked to a young person named Aru Shiny Ajay of the Sunrise Movement, or somebody else. You're referencing another reporter who told A Matter of Degrees. I think climate change is the most existential threat to humanity, and authoritarianism and fascism seem to be getting in our way of stopping it. So I'm like, okay, if we got to knock out authoritarianism to knock out climate change, let's go. I like it. That was inspiring.
Yeah, it's unstoppable. I mean, Sunrise is known for, the sit-in Nancy Pelosi's office that AOC joined. That was a big political movement, got us eventually what became the Inflation Reduction Act, which is a terrible rename of the Green New Deal, has now been reversed. But there's a lot of things that, some of the stuff stayed, the tax credits and that kind of thing. So that was a huge win for that youth movement. In the last 6 months, they've been outside of ICE hotels. They've been doing noise demonstrations, making sure that ICE agents don't sleep well at night. And so this is just an example of a really pragmatic movement who are saying, we've got to deal with the threat that is most emergent. And there seems to be a coalition between fossil fuels and fascism. And I sound like you and I, we're sounding like sweaty conspiracy theorists talking about this, but I'm just talking about like they gave Trump money so that Trump could do whatever he wanted. And that is where we're at. And we got to fight it.
I just love that conspiracy theorists are thought of as like really perspiring, like very nervous.
Yes.
It's not, it's very, I mean, it's very interconnected, as you read about in this piece, obviously, but where there's money to be made, capitalists are going to try to make it, and fascists are going to work with them because they don't care about the rules. They care about winning. And that's exactly what we're seeing with the connection between the oil and gas industry in the United States of America and government.
But I want to make a distinction between like, I like capitalism. I like innovation. I like businesses. I like free markets. This is not free markets. This is cartel, right? This is crony capitalism. When you're giving away, when oligarchs give money to the president and the president says, I'm going to change the regulations, I'm going to reverse things that are in process in order to load the dice for your old, dirty, expensive energy. That's not capitalism, and it's not a level playing field. And that's what we really have to like deconstruct, because China is making bank selling people stuff that is efficient, that is offering independence, and is cheaper, and that's capitalism. I'm all for it.
Well, even if you like capitalism, I'm no fan of capitalism. I can't argue too well about economics. I don't know what I am, but I certainly don't like it when it comes to the idea that you're going to take two sources of energy. One's really bad and dirty and pollutes the environment, and the other is not. And you're going to put a little weight on the scales, which is what the United States of America has always done with the oil industry. We've subsidized it to the tune of hundreds of billions of dollars almost a year, and that makes it more affordable for a gallon of gas, which is why a lot of Americans can afford to buy giant pickup trucks. They're like the best selling, and which is why when you go to Europe, can't do the conversion, but like a liter of gas goes in these tiny little cars. You better not grow too tall because it's $8 for that and a liter. And so that's not capitalism when you subsidize one form of energy and make the other one compete and put hurdles in the way of it. It's like a DEI for energy.
That's exactly right. And it's totally affirmative action for the worst kind of energy, right?
Right. It is.
Yeah, exactly. And so, I mean, I think there's levels to this, right? Like there's the personal level where I'm like, I feel bad for not talking more about climate change because so many other things are going on. But then I start to see it in this systemic perspective and I'm like, oh, this happened on purpose. They're trying to distract us.
Yeah, and you do a great job connecting all the dots in this piece, which everybody should read. The most important thing we're not talking about. But I've only got a few more minutes with Anya, and I got to say, over on her Substack, thegoldenhour.substack.com, It's such important work, super original. And I think the most important thing for Anya is, and for a lot of other people, she has the credibility of a pretty impressive career of being vetted. And so when you're looking for independent reporting, you should look at people who have that, in my opinion. But you've got so many other great pieces, including one back in January, How to Get Over the End of the World. I'm trying to let go of collapse, you write. It's a popular piece. Give me a little bit about that before we go to the happiness.
Yeah, sure. I mean, basically, so when we start talking about climate change, a lot of people in this field talk about what's called collapse, and they're basically extending out the trend lines that we're in and saying, there's a lot of stuff that's unsustainable about our current way of living. And what does unsustainable means? It means you can't keep going, right? And so there is a vast kind of group of people who are various levels of credibility and expertise talking about, well, what does it look like after the end of this? Do we go into degrowth? Is there some kind of area like where there's no longer constant growth and constant improvement in standards of living and technology? And the truth is, like, I was very caught up in that for some time as a lens or perspective to think about big picture changes, what might happen in 2 generations, 3 generations. And it's not impossible. Like there's a reality where that can happen. But I think what I'm trying to write about here is unhooking from that as a certainty. Like it's very easy to get obsessed with like the monster movie ending where everything like ties up and when we've all kind of been there and we love disaster movies. But how do you actually think about realistically big changes that might be coming in the future without getting too attached to any particular outcome, even if it's a doom outcome? Because doom makes you feel, for me, doomism makes you feel smart. It makes you feel like very certain and like you've got some serious knowledge that nobody else has.
I have never heard someone characterize it that way, but a certain friend who may or may not be watching is that. And a bunch of other people as well. A bunch of people I know who happen to categorize as some of the most intelligent people I know fall into that category. And it's fascinating the way that you analyze it. I've not heard it quite put that way. Yeah, that's what happens. It's pretty common, I think.
It's really common because you know why? Uncertainty is so uncomfortable, and
yes, it's the worst.
It's so hard to tolerate. And I know you do mindfulness stuff. Like that's the main thing of mindfulness is like helping us live with uncertainty and just not knowing. And what's also true is that like in our culture, in our society, it's like optimism is for dummies and hope is for dummies.
Why is that? Why is that? Because I'm an optimist and I feel like I think people think I'm a dummy. And I think often they're right. I think they're right that because my optimism is often wrong. I predicted that Trump would lose both times as an example. I can name other things that, I have zero credibility on that I've gotten wrong, but I try to be optimistic. How do you categorize yourself?
Well, there's some people use the term tragic optimist. I kind of feel like I want to be able to live a life of joy and meaning separate from my predictions or my brain wanting to jump ahead about what might happen. It's
I like that.
You know what I mean? So it's like very much the the parable about the guy that's going over the cliff and there's like a tiger chasing him and he's like stops and eats a strawberry. He's like hanging on by his fingernails to the edge of the cliff.
I don't know this parable, but I want to.
Okay, so the tiger's chasing him and he goes over the cliff and then he's like hanging by his fingernails on the edge of the cliff and the tiger is above him like snarling and then like in front of him there's a strawberry and so he eats the strawberry. That's it.
I hope it was good.
It was great. It was the best strawberry ever. Like I don't know. I mean, look, you can call people dummies. I've seen research that says that like depressed people are more realistic. Like they're more realistic about their own abilities. Really? And like
that track.
Yeah. But it's not the most adaptive,
Oh, I want to talk all about this. Let's go just quickly to your list. 45 things I learned by 45. If you're not subscribed to Anya, you might have missed this. She's one of the smartest people I get the opportunity to talk to and gotten to know. And so it's a great person's list to reference. All right, I'm going to name a few, and you can just give a lightning round reaction. But yeah, I guess you had to include SPF every day, no matter who you are. I just found out that most black folks, according to like 10 black people I was talking to at once, wear sunscreen every morning. I was like, what? I don't even. And I thought that wasn't as bad of a problem, but I'm super ignorant. So everybody should be wearing it, not just pale skinned people.
That's so true. That is so true. Yeah.
This one outraged me. I'm biased towards liking you and respecting you, and I like you can convince me of stuff, but this cold plunge stuff, you say cold plunge is worth it? Come on.
Personally attacked, huh? I gotta tell you, I mean, it's not for everybody. My husband has a much lower body fat percentage than me, so it could be gendered. He's not into it, but I think it's amazing. I think it like it bombs your brain with both like dopamine and oxytocin. Like it's like up chemicals and down chemicals at the same time. And it makes you feel incredible. What can I tell you? There's also like the personal fortitude aspect of it. Like
Yeah,
it is
I don't like that because that's what I don't feel like I have come the pool, the plunge. I'm like, I don't think I have the you could call it fortitude. Some others might call it courage. Here's a couple you don't have to react to. Tell the people you love, the people that you love, tell them.
Yes.
I like that. Obviously, this one makes your family sound pretty impressive or crazy. Every meal and snack I serve, I silently put out fruit, veggies, or salad every night. We also have dessert. What?
Oh, yeah. You don't have dessert every night?
No way. No way. A dessert is such a treat for me. I just had a piece of cheesecake a week ago, and I'm still thinking about it.
Well, you look great. Congrats.
It's just stuff.
Oh my God. Yeah. I mean, I have had friends lose everything in fires and in floods. And then just at a certain point, you realize that's it.
The more comfortable you get with death, the freer and better your life will be. I love it. I love that a lot. And finally, try growing something, even one pot of basil in a windowsill, which I also love. Take a walk by a body of water as often as you possibly can. Go over to the goldenhour.substack.com right now to read the rest of this. I'll share this one, the link in the show notes. Anya, it's always a great pleasure to talk to you. I appreciate you joining me and sharing your original reporting. I hope people will go and pay for it.
I appreciate you, Pete. Thank you so much.
All right, bye, everybody. Thanks for watching live.